Akitaru is a trash loser who has no girl in his life except for his friend's sister, whose job is to torment him till he gets a life-changing opportunity to work at a big entertainment company for an opportunity to clap the president's daughter. The story starts out with Akitaru returning from school, while talking about the false logic that a crush needs to act negatively towards their target, when it is pretty easy to come out clean with their intentions. Akitaru arrives at his door to hear loud music blaring and rocking his room. He can also hear a girl's voice from inside the room, and he manages to control his anger to avoid bursting open like a balloon. He walks into the room, heads to the power outlet, and pulls out the sound system plug, while complaining about how loud the music is. Lying on his bed is a girl, Iroha, and she gaslights him by telling him that he is supposed to knock before barging into someone else's room. Akitaru is forced to remind her, just in case she is suffering from a rare breed of amnesia, that she is the one trespassing in his room. Akitaru then tells Iroha that she is supposed to keep the music volume down because of the other residents. Basically, Iroha has her headphones with her, but she chose to torment the other tenants by blowing up the speaker. Iroha immediately switches the conversation, asking Akitaru if he wants to have a go with her beautiful melons, since he is quite interested in where her headphones are hanging. Iroha makes her move more tempting by going close to Akitaru, but RMC is able to resist her Delilah attempts, still trying to push Akitaru into a pit. Iroha says Akitaru didn't knock because he was hoping that she would be changing her clothes. She starts calling the police, but Akitaru tells her not to waste her time because he can help her call the police with his phone. Iroha is surprised to see how confident Akitaru is about calling the police, and she reminds him that her words are going to carry more weight in front of the government handcuff-wielding robots. Apparently, Iroha is a troublesome chick who will do everything to torment Akitaru. Akitaru is forced to keep his mouth shut, but Iroha continues by reminding Akitaru that she has his house key with her, which means that he consented to her being in his home for them to have fun. Akitaru tries to defend himself, saying he didn't give her the key just so she can spread her female liquids everywhere, but Iroha argues that this is the case. Iroha even believes that Akitaru will be reeling in her body scent when she leaves, but Akitaru bugs sprays her, saying he would rather not have any of her scent in the room. Iroha berates Akitaru for treating his baby sister like trash, but Akitaru denies that the girl is his sister. Iroha maintains her argument, reminding Akitaru that she is his best friend's sister, which automatically makes her his baby sister. The awkward moment between the two continues until Akitaru gets a call from his uncle, Mori. Akitaru tells her to keep her mouth shut or make herself scarce because he is about to receive an important call. Iroha assures him that he is going to stay silent like a mannequin throughout the duration of the call. Apparently, Mori is the president of an entertainment company called Honey Place Works, and Akitaru recently submitted an application to the company. Akitaru asks his uncle if he is calling because of the application, and he says yes, since he is of high ranking in the company. He assures Akitaru that he can help him out, but he also has something he wants Akitaru to do for him. All while Akitaru is on call with his uncle, Iroha is glued to him like a python, listening to their conversation. Before Mori reveals the first favor he wants, he asks Akitaru a unique question. He wants to know if Akitaru has a girlfriend or not. Iroha hears this and immediately goes into crazy mode, ready to make life difficult for Akitaru. While trying to push her away, her voice slips into the phone, and Mori asks him if someone is with him, but he lies that he just got a cat. Iroha doesn't make the lie easier for Akitaru as she continues tickling him, making him uncomfortable for the rest of the call. In the end, Mori picks a location for them to meet, but he expresses his relief that Akitaru doesn't have a girlfriend. After the call, Iroha acts like she didn't do anything wrong and even tells Akitaru that she needs some thick milk. Akitaru points her in the direction of the fridge instead of unleashing his hot sausage on her. Soon afterward, Akitaru is seen in class, diligently copying his friend's notes. An erase bounces in front of him, and he picks it up before telling the owner about it. Instead of being grateful, the owner is startled that Akitaru helped him out because obviously, Akitaru is a damn loser, and he doesn't want his loser trait to transfer to him. Momentarily, his best friend and Iroha's brother, Azuma, joins Akitaru in class. Azuma thanks Akitaru for helping him out, and he promises to buy him some snacks later. The conversation between the two soon progresses to Azuma telling Akitaru that Iroha most likely has a crush on him. Akitaru debunks this because he doesn't think Iroha would prefer to torment him if she really likes him. Azuma mentions that the way girls think is pretty different from boys. But Akitaru still doesn't think he is a likable person since he is the leader of losers. In addition, Akitaru doesn't see himself taking advice from Azuma, who is a magnet for all good things. Their little conversation is interrupted by the arrival of their strict math teacher, Sumire. Just her presence in the class sends the students to the afterlife and back. Later that day, Akitaru is packing his bags when a classmate comes rushing over to tell him that a cute girl is asking after him. This draws attention to Akitaru, and when he checks out who it is that is asking after him, it turns out to be none other than Iroha. Akitaru walks up to her, asking her what she wants with a very serious tone. Instead of her usual rash and egotistical self, Iroha replies to Akitaru with a calm and cute voice. Iroha then suggests that they go home together, and Akitaru agrees. Akitaru plans to call Azuma along, but Iroha tells him that there is no need for this because she wants them to be alone. Akitaru berates Iroha for acting fake in front of everyone, but this turns out to be a big mistake on his path. Iroha turns things around by asking Akitaru why he is being harsh when they are clearly a couple. This immediately sparks outrage among the students who are spectating. Iroha continues by saying Akitaru even played love games with her, leaving the spectators picking their jaws from the floor. Azuma shows up on the scene, and Iroha continues with her jail sending lies that she and Akitaru are going on a date. Realizing that things are only going to get worse, he drags her out of there. Akitaru drags her to the stairs, where he demands to know what type of game she is playing. Iroha mentions that she has made herself his girlfriend just to torment him because of the phone conversation she heard the day before. Iroha says it like she is doing Akitaru a favor by becoming his girlfriend, since he is a piece of trash. Unlike the regular days, Akitaru is pissed at Iroha for playing games with him, telling her that the call with his uncle is important for his future. Akitaru walks away in anger, but Iroha suddenly grabs him from behind, telling him he has a potato for brains because he can't see the fact that she loves him. She rubs his back while telling him that she wants them to remain close forever. Iroha's confession hits the right spots in Akitaru's mind and soul, leaving him ultimately defenseless. He has no idea what to say to Iroha, but everything immediately goes downhill when Iroha reveals that she was only messing with him. Iroha knows the best way to get to Akitaru, and she exploited it easily. Akitaru is stunned by embarrassment that he doesn't even know what to say. Iroha notices how embarrassed he is because his entire face, up to his ears, has turned red like pepper. When Akitaru finally pulls himself together, he angrily tells Iroha that he is never going to believe a word out of her mouth again. Later on, Akitaru meets Mori at a cafe that he had picked out for them. Akitaru thanks his uncle for meeting him despite his extremely busy schedule. Mori then reveals that there is someone else who will join them soon. Before then, Mori wants them to talk about other things. Mori expresses his shock at the fact that Akitaru has developed his own game, but Akitaru mentions that it was a team effort. Apparently, Akitaru has a team known as the Fifth Alliance, and together, they all worked on the game to bring it to life. The game is basically the talk of the town as it has been able to reach 1 million downloads in a short space of time. Even with the recorded effort, Akitaru thinks it would be much better if they get promoted by his uncle's company. Since they are getting into the main conversation, Akitaru asks him about the conditions he mentioned. Instead of answering immediately, Mori tells Akitaru to look at the order list and get himself something. Momentarily, a waitress shows up to take their order, and Mori wastes no time asking her out. Akitaru cannot believe that his uncle is a creep, and, exhausted from their boring talks, he asks to use the bathroom. He closes his eyes as he enters the restroom, causing him to push the door open without knocking. By the time he opens his eyes, he sees a girl doing her thing on the toilet seat, and the girl ends up screaming like a strained cat out of sheer embarrassment. When Akitaru finally returns to the cafe, the girl is also there, and it turns out that the girl is Mori's cousin, Mashiro. Basically, she is his cousin, and Mori finally decides to reveal his condition to hire Akitaru and his team. Akitaru and Mashiro almost die of shame when Mori reveals that he wants Akitaru to be her boyfriend till she graduates from school. Apparently, Mashiro has never attended any public school before, and Mori is just trying to protect her. Realizing that he can help her cousin out, Akitaru agrees to the deal, and Mashiro reluctantly agrees too. Mashiro has no issues, since the entire thing is fake and she hates Akitaru's guts. Before the end of the meeting, Mori gives Akitaru the cold face to tell him that he is going to be in trouble if he ever makes a move on Mashiro, but Akitaru knows this much. With this, the two conclude their deal, and Mori lets Akitaru know that he is free to come and start work at the company the next day. The next time Akitaru returns to school, he runs into Iroha, who immediately suspects that something is going on with him. Akitaru tries to hide it, telling the girl not to disturb him. He finally gets rid of her when he enters his class, and moments later, Mashiro enters the class to introduce herself as the new student in class. She wastes no time spicing things up by revealing that she and Akitaru are a couple, and this immediately sparks an uproar in class. Akitaru is considered the class trash, and one of them asks her how he met Akitaru. Mashiro stutters before saying they met in the bathroom, ultimately sparking another wave of shock. Mashiro realizes that things are getting awfully weird and immediately ends the introduction phase. But when she gets to her seat, which is conveniently beside Akitaru, she acts the total opposite of what a girlfriend should act like. Akitaru tries telling her to play the part, but she lets it be known that she hates his guts, and she suggests that they keep their stories straight so that no one will see that she is treating him like trash. Just then, Azuma taps Akitaru on the shoulder, asking him why he kept his relationship a secret. Akitaru simply tells him that he is going to explain the details to him later. Just as he promised, Akitaru explains to Azuma how he got to be Iroha's fake boyfriend, and Azuma teases her for being the lucky guy, but Akitaru thinks it's the opposite. Azuma then reminds Akitaru that Iroha loves him, but as usual, Akitaru throws this idea in the trash. Azuma soon stands up to go get food, and the annoying green-haired student shows up to talk about his new love life. In the middle of the conversation, he mentions the little girl, Iroha, that he is always hanging out with. Unlucky for Akitaru, Mashiro walks in to hear the greenhead say that Akitaru hangs out with a little girl. Akitaru tries to salvage the situation by telling the greenhead that Iroha is Azuma's sister, and that there is nothing romantic between them. Akitaru finally manages to get rid of the dude by using his weakness for Sumire against him. After he is gone, Mashiro walks up to Akitaru, telling him to get him some rice balls. Akitaru is surprised to hear this since he never signed up to be Mashiro's slave. Mashiro reminds him that he is her boyfriend and he should at least try to play the part. Akitaru is forced to step out to get her the rice balls that she wants, but as expected, she gets no thanks for what he did. Moments later, the strict teacher, Sumire, enters the class. Just as expected, she roasts a kid so badly that he wishes to be isekai'd. Since it is Mashiro's first time being in Sumire's class, she also has a hard time dealing with a strict woman. Everyone heaves a sigh of relief when she finishes her lecture, but just as she is about to step out of the class, she tells Akitaru to come to her office. Everyone fears for Akitaru, but he assures them that he has nothing to be scared of, since Sumire will obviously not terminate him. He boldly walks into the student counseling office, and, upon entering the weird room, he makes his way to the throne-like chair sitting in the middle of the room. The moment he gets on the chair, Sumire surprisingly rushes over to bow to him, apologizing for her misdeeds. She starts shedding tears while explaining her situation to Akitaru. In a twist of things, it turns out that Sumire is the illustrator, the fifth member of the Fifth Floor Alliance. She submitted one of her projects late, which is why she is begging with her head on the ground. Akitaru scolds her the same way she scolds the students in class, by reminding her of the core principles of being a disciplined person. Sumire begs forgiveness while telling Akitaru that she is only role-playing whenever she comes to class. Akitaru was already letting things go until he asked about the progress of her project, and he found out that she was still stagnant. He almost locks her in one of the pain-inflicting devices sitting in the room, but decides to let her go when she reveals that she was suffering from an artist's block. Akitaru scolds her, saying she should have come to him sooner with her problems. Instead of being remorseful, Sumair says she didn't want to come to her because she was maintaining her aura points. This earns her a painful procedure of Akitaru grabbing her pressure points. At the same time, this helps her relieve all the stress she has been feeling. This causes her to remember the pressure she felt the very first time she met Akitaru. Sumair thinks it is the worst way they could have met, but Akitaru believes it is the most beautiful way. Akitaru then tells her to submit her draft as quickly as she can, but this forces Sumair to call him the cruelest man out there. Akitaru then tells her that she is to blame for bringing it upon herself. The two end up having a back and forth before Akitaru finally decides that it is time for him to leave. Before leaving, Sumair asks Akitaru about his relationship with Mashiro, and he explains that it was the only condition that Mori set for him to land the gig. After hearing this, Sumair appreciates Akitaru's effort in helping the team. Sumair then mentions that there was a problem at Mashiro's former school because she was being bullied. Apparently, her classmates found out a secret, and they started using this against her. Sumair says Mashiro has been through some really bad times, and Sumair urges Akitaru to help her. Akitaru assures Sumair that this is his plan from the onset. When Akitaru finally returns to class, he finds Mashiro packing her things, and he suggests that they head home together, but she stares at him with a very scary face, telling him not to talk to her. Mashiro is forced to run out of the room when she realizes that everyone is staring at them. Azuma walks up to Akitaru, trying to comfort him concerning his troubles with Mashiro. Akitaru is going through a really tough time, but he is determined to find a way to become friends with Mashiro. Later on, Akitaru is in the locker room when Iroha appears behind him, resting her juicy melons on Akitaru's back. Akitaru doesn't notice this until Iroha herself points this out. The sensation finally kicks in, leaving Akitaru totally blown away. The moment Iroha notices that Akitaru is already falling for her trap, she continues to pile on the misery. She hugs him tighter so she can feel the sensation of her body. Apparently, she is not wearing a covering under, which makes everything even more pleasing to Akitaru. Akitaru is totally confused about what to do to get out of the situation because she can't push Iroha off and risks her melons falling off in front of the students. Akitaru knows this is totally out of the question, since Iroha is his best friend's sister, and he can't do anything to make his best friend sad. In addition to that, he is supposed to be Mashiro's boyfriend, and can't risk being seen with a junior lady. Akitaru knows that his career is done if Mori finds out about this. Just then, Iroha teases him, telling him that she is willing to let him go if he surrenders. However, Akitaru decides to take the least expected decision. He grabs Iroha and holds her tightly on his back as he carries her through a route where no one would see them. Once he knows that they are safe, Akitaru forces an apology out of her before throwing her on the floor as punishment. On their way home, Akitaru then asks Iroha how he can make a woman who hates him like him. Iroha is very curious when she hears this, forcing her to ask if Akitaru now has someone he likes, but Akitaru denies this. Akitaru later explains his situation to the girl, and after hearing everything, Iroha assures him that she has a way of helping him make Mashiro fall for him. The next day, Akitaru follows Iroha's advice by becoming Mashiro's lapdog just to try and get her to fall for him. However, his appearance and approach disgust Mashiro, and she angrily grabs him by the leash on his neck, dragging him away to somewhere they can talk. Mashiro asks him what he is trying to achieve by acting stupid, and he mentions his goal. However, he confesses that he actually had the idea that it wouldn't work. This only pissed her off more because he had his doubts and still foolishly went on with the plan. The two are discussing their differences when the annoying Iroha shows up to reveal that she was the one who set everything up. It suddenly dawns on Mashiro that Iroha is the young lady they said Akitaru is hanging out with. Akitaru tries to clear the air, but Mashiro walks away in anger. That evening, they get to their apartment only to find out that Mashiro is now living beside them, too. Apparently, Akitaru, Sumair, and the siblings are all living on the same apartment line, and Mashiro has come to join them, without even knowing it. Mashiro ends up running into her room when she hears that Sumair is staying close to her, as if she hates the lady's guts. Even with the way Mashiro is behaving, Akitaru is hellbent on getting his way with Mashiro. Later on, Akitaru tells his colleagues about his plan to host a party to properly welcome Mashiro to the apartment. Some minutes before revealing his daring plan, Akitaru, Iroha, Sumair, and Ozuma are all having fun at his place. They are celebrating finishing up a certain project right on time before the deadline. Akitaru commends his friend for being such a genius, but Ozuma attributes everything to the support that he is getting from Akitaru. Ozuma then asks Akitaru if he is hearing from their other member, Makagai, but he says no. Apparently, Makagai is the only person on the team whom Akitaru has not met in person. Sumair soon drinks herself to the utmost brink, and she assumes that Akitaru and Ozuma are talking about her, but Akitaru clears the air. It was after this that he told them about his plan to host a party for Mashiro in a week's time. The next morning, Akitaru heads to Mashiro's door, and he starts spamming her doorbell until she is forced to open the door. Akitaru then asks her if she is willing to come to his house party, but the moment she hears this, she slams the door shut again. Akitaru tries using the same trick, but Mashiro is a step ahead of him by disabling the power in her room. Akitaru is persistent as ever, and instead of giving up, he starts sending the invitation letters via her mail. Akitaru takes it further by making sure he stays on her neck in school. Everywhere he sees her, he tries to talk to her, and this gives Mashiro a really hard time. Akitaru meets when other students are looking at them and tries to use the opportunity to talk to her, but her hatred for the dude surpasses her need to be embarrassed. Later on, Akitaru and Iroha go shopping, and Iroha plays her game of blackmailing Akitaru into doing things yet again. She finds a snack, and she pretends to be his girlfriend, just to get him to eat the snack from her hand. Because Akitaru is interested in the sausage, he has no choice but to beg Iroha for it. The conversation soon shifts to Mashiro, and Akitaru mentions that he is still having a hard time trying to get on her good side. Akitaru says Mashiro totally hates his guts, and she is even avoiding him. Iroha then tells Akitaru that he has not been able to get through to Mashiro because he is not trying enough, and in addition, he is a bit pushy about the way he does his thing. Iroha tells Akitaru that he is always trying to help people as if he knows what is good for everyone. She makes an example of when he invited her and her brother to join the alliance. However, Iroha doesn't deny the fact that Akitaru is a good judge of character. Just then, Iroha reaches for an item on the top shelf, and she almost falls off in an attempt to grab it. Just like she said, Akitaru is there to help her, and Iroha uses this as another mode of encouragement for him. She tells him to continue giving his best, and he will eventually get through to Mashiro. Akitaru gains wisdom in what Iroha says, and he thanks her for it, saying he is ready to give it his all. Meanwhile, Mashiro's room is filled with the invitation flyers, but she remains adamant that she is not going to the party that he is hosting. On D-Day, Akitaru has already put plans in place with his friends, as he is hellbent on making sure he gets Mashiro to his house party. After school, Akitaru finds Mashiro at the locker room, and she immediately assumes that he is there to invite her to the party, but he says no. However, this shows that her mind is drawn to the party. Akitaru then mentions that the only thing he wants from her is an opportunity to walk her back home. Akitaru believes that this is an easy request that she is not going to deny, but to his utmost shock, Mashiro makes a run for it. Akitaru cannot believe that Mashiro hates him so much that she doesn't even want to walk with him. However, Akitaru can't afford not to walk home with her because his entire plan is based on that. He runs after her and makes sure that he stays in close proximity to her. Mashiro soon gets frustrated, and she takes another route that leads to the riverside. But Akitaru suddenly shows up beside her, almost giving her a heart attack. Mashiro then mentions that she is not interested in joining Akitaru's clique because she doesn't know if she is going to fit in. Akitaru then gets serious with her, asking her who else she knows aside from him and his friends. He asks her if she has spoken to any other students aside from him since she got to the school, and the answer is obviously no. Akitaru remembers what Sumair told him about her past experience in school, and he screams at her, telling her that she can't continue living her life the way she is. Akitaru lets her know that she is free to cry for help because everything is obviously not okay with her. Akitaru's words get to her, and he notices this. He tries moving close to her, but she moves back without looking at where she is stepping. This causes her to fall off the ledge. and when Akitaru tries helping her, they both fall into the water. The water soaking her clothes makes her look more appealing, and it takes Akitaru a whole load of control to look away from her. Frustrated, she tries getting out of the water herself, and she almost falls back in, but Akitaru saves her. He holds her tightly until she is finally ready to leave the water. By the time she steps out of the water, she is totally calm and even laughs at Akitaru's joke for the first time. Mashiro finally confesses that she doesn't hate Akitaru, and she urges him not to hate her, too. Mashiro then reveals her fear of not getting along with Akitaru and his friends, which is why she is hesitant to join his group. Akitaru tries to make her feel better by telling her that he is also an ordinary dude who has nothing to boast of. However, Mashiro argues with him, saying her father already told her that he is the one who created the Fifth Alliance game. With this, Mashiro believes that Akitaru should be the most popular kid in school, but Akitaru clears the air, saying no one in his class knows that he invented the game. Akitaru claims that he kept it a secret because he doesn't want the attention to get into his head. Mashiro is blown away by Akitaru's mentality, and not long after this, the two walk back home together. Just as she is about to enter her room, she notices that her door is open, and Akitaru offers to escort her in just in case someone has broken in. The two slowly walk into the dark room, but suddenly, Mashiro is hit with a welcome celebration, ultimately shocking her. Akitaru tells her that it is her welcome party, but Mashiro is more worried about the fact that they entered her apartment without her consent. Akitaru then shocks her, saying they are actually inside his apartment, not hers. Mashiro is confused at this, since she is pretty sure that she walked to the end of the line where her apartment is. Akitaru then confesses, saying she is not actually at the end of the line because they put a holographic screen there to make it seem like she has reached her apartment. Mashiro is utterly blown away, and she is forced to ask them why they would go to such lengths for her. Akitaru assures her that she is going to understand everything once she joins them. Akitaru calms her down, telling her that she is free to consider everyone in the room her friend, and for once, Mashiro finally acts like herself. Later on, Iroha and Akitaru stand on the balcony of their apartment to take in fresh air. Iroha feels the moment, and she acts cool for the first time, thanking Akitaru for giving her the chance to be the voice-over artist for his game. It turns out that Akitaru met Azuma when they were in the middle academy, and Azuma was known as an odd guy because he was always spending time in the science lab. Some even assume that he is conducting inhumane experiments inside the lab. However, Akitaru was the only person who approached him, and he decided to take a deep dive into Azuma's talents. Sometime later, Akitaru runs into Azuma on the apartment floor, and while they are discussing, Iroha shows up, making it the first time that Akitaru will meet Iroha. She seemed like a shy girl who even thanked Akitaru for helping her brother out in school. Back then, she was a sweet girl with nothing irritating about her. In class, Akitaru expresses his shock that Azuma has a sister, and he didn't know. They are in the middle of their conversation when one of the notorious delinquents, Otoi, walks up to them in the most nonchalant way. She tells the two that she would like to see them behind the gym. The two have no choice but to follow her to hear what it is that she has to say. Getting to the back of the gym, she offers them candies even though they are against the school rules. She really doesn't care about the rules, and the two have no choice but to take the candies from her. Akitaru then asks Otoi why she called them behind. Otoi drops the bombshell, saying she would like to know the kind of person Iroha is. It turns out that Iroha approached her group with the intention of becoming a delinquent just like them. Otoi says she wants to know the kind of person Iroha is, since she heard from others that she is an honor student. Akitaru then asks her if she is planning on inviting Iroha to the club, and Otoi tells them that she is still thinking about it. However, she confesses that she would have no choice but to accept Iroha if she begs to be in the club. She then asks Azuma about his thoughts, but he finds it difficult to answer. Since they are indecisive, Otoi leaves the two to deliberate on what they just heard. Akitaru then asks Azuma why he couldn't give an answer to the question that Otoi asked. Azuma confesses that he doesn't know how his sister operates because they are not really close. In fact, they might go 2 months without talking to each other. Upon hearing this, Akitaru finally grasps the kind of situation that the family is in. Being the serial helper that he is, he cooks up a plan, and he asks Azuma to let him come to his house after school. After school, Akitaru escorts Azuma home, and he notices that their entire living room is empty. Azuma mentions that he doesn't use the living room for anything. The moment they step into Azuma's room, Akitaru is shocked to see just how scattered it is. There are gadgets everywhere, and Azuma urges him not to step on anything because he might just get angry. Akitaru retorts, urging Azuma to clean his room instead. Azuma defends himself, saying he already knows where he placed everything in his room, which makes it easier for him to navigate without stepping on anything. Akitaru is impressed by the inventions in his room, but Azuma downplays this, saying anyone can do it. Moments later, the two sit down to play games, and after receiving several episodes of whooping, Akitaru tells Azuma that he has to visit the restroom. The moment he steps out of the room, he reveals his real intention of coming to the house. It turns out that he is there to know the kind of person Iroha is. He stands by the door to eavesdrop on her conversation, and he gets so carried away by this that he fails to know when Iroha opens the door. However, before Iroha can scream, he grabs and pushes her into the room. He manages to calm her down, telling her that he is not a bad guy. The moment he lets Iroha go, she turns around and lands a dirty slap on his face. Akitaru tries to defend himself, but suddenly notices that Iroha has a call from the leader of the delinquents, Takebana. Iroha picks up her call and engages in a short conversation with Takebana before turning to Akitaru to ask her what he wants from her. Iroha tries to dissuade Akitaru from meddling in his business because he is nothing more than a friend to her brother. Deep down, Akitaru is eager to help because Azuma has been through a lot already in the academy, and it would be bad if his sister ends up in the delinquent group. Akitaru tries to get to know her more, but she makes sure to make things really difficult for him. Up next, Akitaru decides to track Takebana down, since he heard that she usually holds a music street performance. Even though the weather is very hot, Akitaru doesn't give up, and after a really hard time of looking, he finds Takebana. He approaches her and calls her by her name, which shocks her. Takebana assumes that Akitaru is a stalker for knowing her name, but Akitaru clears the air, saying he is there to talk about Iroha. Before they can get down to the real conversation, he passes out from exhaustion. He later holds the meeting in a cafe while Iroha is also present. Akitaru tells Takebana to consider giving up on her life to be a delinquent and just become a regular schoolgirl. Iroha defends Takebana, saying Akitaru is trying to steal her dream away from her. Apparently, Takebana likes making music, and Akitaru decides to ask Iroha if she wants the same thing, too. Iroha finds it hard to answer the question. Akitaru puts pressure on her, and Takebana finally cuts in, saying she can read Iroha like a book. It turns out that Iroha has an interest in making music, but she is a fan of Takebana's music. Iroha admits this, saying she admires Takebana because she is a confident person. Amid the conversation, Akitaru finally learns that Iroha doesn't have a hobby of her own because their mother is very strict, leaving Iroha a boring girl. When Akitaru hears this, it finally makes sense to him, and he promises Iroha that he is going to create an environment for her to thrive in. Akitaru gets off his seat and pays everyone's bill before leaving. He rushes home to tell Azuma the bright idea that he has, and this is the fact that he wants them to build a game. Azuma works on the hardware, while Akitaru draws the characters and also writes the story. In the end, Akitaru and Azuma created the game that blew up, all thanks to his thrill to help his friend's sister. Thanks for watching till the end, and don't forget to watch out for future updates.